all that is our life, we give our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift to build the common good. I know for many here, it's very important that we build the common good. And indeed, as Unitarian Universalists, we are called to exactly that, because we know each person matters and we are all connected, and that living and learning the truth matters. Welcome to the Sunday services of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Oxford. I am Reverend Gail Stratton, UUCO's community minister and your worship associate today. We're delighted to bring you today's service, Pulling Up Icarus. Whether you're a longtime member or a first-time visitor, we welcome you here. Come with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands. Upholding our shared values, we come together to celebrate our interdependence, honor the spirit of generosity, and explore the possibilities of transformation. It is good to be together in this pluralistic community, this congregation that seeks to center love in all that we do. I have two introductions as we get started this morning. We are very pleased to welcome Reverend Sam Title back to as our public guest this morning. Reverend Sam comes to us from Memphis and brings an amazing range of depth and skills and experiences in ministry. He is the former minister of the Church of the River, a former outreach coordinator at First Parish in Wayland, Massachusetts, and has worked at Slam Free or Die Poetry Open Mic. You might want to ask him about that after the service. He is married to Sandra Summers and is father to Gideon and Juniper. In addition to his MDiv degree, he has a master's degree in global interreligious leadership and has built many connections among the different faiths in Memphis. He has also been an important speaker at some of our national level events. I'm remembering particularly the Berry Street Lecture, where he was a commentator. The Berry Street Lecture is the longest running lecture in the United States. It got started in the 1820s, something like that. It's been going every year. And he was able to provide the commentator, the response to one of the speakers. Very pleased to have you back. Very pleased.
Pleased to be here.
And I'd also like to welcome Michael Oropeza, who comes to us from Forest, Mississippi, in the back of the room there. She is the executive director of El Pueblo of Mississippi. El Pueblo is the recipient for our Share the Plate this month, and we're so very happy to have Michael here with us to tell us a bit about the work that they are doing, the challenges that they face, and it is truly one of the only organizations in Mississippi working on behalf of immigrants. So very, very important work. Since 2007, El Pueblo has been the provider of professional, low-cost, humanitarian, and family-based immigration legal services to Mississippi communities. They have had a significant presence in Forest, Mississippi since the 2019 ice raids, where it took 600 ICE agents to arrest 600 people. Think about the effort that went into that. But that's when El Pueblo got set up in Forest, and many people here helped in supporting the Forest community early on. On a personal level, Michael has been a mentor to us and very helpful to me and others as we started a new organization in North Mississippi called Amigos of Northeast Mississippi. So thank you for being here. I want to pause for just a moment to say that we bring together some extraordinary people here on Sunday mornings. So just glad you all are here and grateful for our speakers. I'll also add a thank you to everyone on the hospitality team and Sunday services team for the work behind the scenes, for Tycho for providing our music. Many thanks. I do have several announcements this morning. There are several listed in your order of service. I won't read all of those, but I'll remind you of a couple. First off, there is a potluck here today, shortly after the service. Everyone is invited to stay. Typically, there's plenty of food. What generally happens is we take a little bit of time for conversation after the service, and then we'll start moving the chairs to make room for tables. Tables will be brought in, set up the tables, and we get to eat. Grief, gratitude, and growth cards should be put in the collection basket. Carmen probably has extras if you want one and didn't get one as you came in. If you'd like to write down any moments of grief, gratitude, or growth to share, that will be shared during a portion of the service. Lana is, yeah, thank you. We're excited to invite you to the upcoming Sharing the Past photography exhibit reception taking place on Friday, October 17th from 6 to 7:30 at the Burns Belfry Museum and Multicultural Center. The special exhibit features powerful photographs that Golda McClellan, we know her as Ellie, this is our Ellie, captured on various experiences on the community trips taken with the outreach group at the university. So many places of historical interest. Her pictures are powerful. I invite you to come to that. There's a flyer on the table. There will not be a Fed Up Friday gathering protest this coming Friday. Other than that, you can expect it to be every Friday at noon in front of the federal building. On Saturday, October 18th, there will be a spiritual rally from 11 to 1 in front of City Hall on the square. Everyone is welcome to come, invited to come. Our own Reverend Sarah will be speaking. This is part of it is connected to the No Kings rally, but it has a spiritual emphasis, particularly as all of the changes with respect to DEI and everything impacting communities of color, African Americans, immigrants, communities of color. So it will be a powerful event. On Monday, the next day, October 20th at 9 o'clock at the Chancery Court building, there will be a supervisors meeting for the Lafayette County. They are considering rezoning an area near Taylor. The proposed changes it from rural zoning to heavy industrial zoning. This is the floodplain of the Yakima River. As one person said, it's not rocket science to know that rivers flood, right? I mean, that happens. So there are deep concerns for the farms in that area, that the desire is a single person has asked for it, and he wants to put an asphalt plant into that area. So it's not for the good of the community, it's for the good of that one person. So please talk to your supervisors, come to that meeting if you are able to. There's materials on the table that has more information about that. Encourage everybody to be part of that. In addition, one last thing, and then I'll stop. In addition, the UU fundraiser will happen in November. I believe it's the third Sunday of November. The fundraiser is an auction. It's a fun time. It's a great time. Be thinking about what kinds of things you could auction, whether it be walk in the woods to see fireflies, or if it could be offering a meal to several people. There's lots of different things that people offer, and it's a lot of fun.
There's an announcement right down.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you. If you are in Oxford 2, the position of election commissioner is very important. There's an election in Supervisory District 2. You may be able to vote absentee now if you are 65 or older, or if you don't know your schedule and may think you won't be in the county that day. So please vote your values. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Next we have a call to creativity. Create something new. A pattern, a recipe, a story, a poem. Plant a seed. Be metaphorical. Now is not the time to be boring. Get inventive, get bold, get weird, get outlandish, get uncomfortably vulnerable. Construct a new status quo. Figure out your deepest, wildest, most expansive dreams for the world, write them down, and build them up. Begin, conceive, create, birth, open. If ever there was a time for you to become who you always dreamed you could be, it is now, when the rules are soft and the edges are blurred and the world is blinking into an uncertain future. Be the future that comes into sharp focus. Tell the truth, the absolute truth. Spare none of the details. The only way through this is mutually assured creation. From Alex Klingberg. With the spirit of openness sparking among us, let us take a moment to offer each other a gesture of holy hospitality. You're invited to share a moment, greet someone you know or don't know, take just a minute to say hello. If you prefer to just sit quietly, as a practice of consent, you can just sit there, and if you put your hand over your heart, people won't bother you. But let's take a moment to greet your neighbors. No, they're gonna stay, they're gonna stay. Now, with the healing love of community and creativity sparking among us, let us light our sacred symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. We light this chalice in the names of love, the love of family that brings us into being, allows us to bloom, and then sends us on our way with courage, knowing we can return no matter what. The love of partnered hearts that teach us to trust and to help us to know who we are, and that does not end at the barrier of our own skin. The love of friends who help us to feel seen and sing our song back to us when we cannot hear it with our ears alone. The love of community that bathes us in belonging and calls us to see the needs of others as our own. And the greatest love, the love that will not let us go, even in our fear, even in our failure, even when we are lonely or lost. Love invites us home. If we listen, it is doing so even today. And now I would like to invite Afton forward to tell the story for all ages, the story of Icarus.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So we have a picture of Icarus right there with his beautiful wings. Once upon a time, on the island of Crete, there lived an expert inventor, Daedalus, with his son, Icarus, who was capable of inventing everything and anything. After Daedalus had come up with a maze to imprison the Minotaur, King Minos locked him up in a cave that faces the sea near the palace, as he was impressed with his works and only wanted Daedalus all for himself, to which Daedalus didn't mind at first, since he was offered everything that he required, such as tools, fine materials, food, clothing, etc., and was quite content with it. However, it was only when Icarus was growing and wanted freedom that Daedalus requested King Minos if he could allow Icarus to join his army, to which King Minos declined, as he thought that Icarus could also be a budding inventor, as he grew up witnessing his father. The next few days, Daedalus was so distressed, seeing the unhappiness on his son's face, and wanted to do something about it. When Icarus mentioned how the seagulls seemed to be as free as they can fly anywhere, Daedalus came up with the idea to create fake wings so that Icarus could taste freedom. So both father and son helped each other to prepare human-sized makeshift wings by using broomsticks, fallen feathers of seagulls, wax, and ropes. The day finally arrived where they could test out their wings, and Daedalus advised Icarus to not fly too close to the sun, as the heat would melt off the wax. At first, they had a smooth start, since both Daedalus and Icarus were finally overjoyed to be able to venture out, and moreover, they have succeeded in doing the one thing man hasn't yet discovered how to do: fly. But soon Icarus was too absorbed in his sudden chance at freedom as he began to fly higher. Horrified, Daedalus yelled at him to stop, but it was too late as the wax on the wings on Icarus began to melt, and he was falling down towards the sea at an alarming rate. Soon the feathers were all melted off, and Icarus fell to the sea and drowned. After quite a bit of time passed, Daedalus started to move on from the death of his beloved son. He named the island close to the sea as Icaria and erected a temple in the name of the sun god Apollo, hung another creation of his wings, and promised that he would never encourage another human to fly ever again. So I ask you to consider, who do you identify most with in this story? Was it King Minos, Daedalus the parent, or perhaps Icarus? Thank you. Well, that's a tough one.
That was a very hard one, yes, yes. So this religious community lives its values in part by sharing the plate each month with an organization that shares our values and works in the world. Your donation this morning not only supports UUCO, but also supports El Pueblo of Mississippi. Many here supported the community in Forest after the ice raids, and it was really great to hear when El Pueblo moved into the Forest area. I would like to invite Michael Oropeza forward now. She is the Executive Director of El Pueblo of Mississippi. We're grateful that she can be with us this morning and tell us some of what's going on. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for thinking about El Pueblo. In today's climate, we need good thoughts. I want to start out with talking about community. Can we all say community? Community. Community is family. Community is a neighborhood. It's your work. You have a work community, your parish community, your school community, clubs, teams. There's a state community, country community, and a global community, right? At El Pueblo, we think there's nothing more important than community. And hearing Gail say, where'd she go? Oh, okay. Sorry. Like, you were talking about common good and mutually creativity, is that it? Yeah. Or the dignity of the person. Community is everything. And our focus at our work at El Pueblo is to build community. We don't want to have community in the shadows. We want to have just community with everyone. We serve the low to no income immigrant community, and we walk side by side with our brothers and sisters. At this moment in time, because things change quite often, we have legal immigration services for families. We have legal immigration services for unaccompanied minors for Mississippi and Alabama. We have a community health worker program in Biloxi, not in the Forest area. We have a vibrant human trafficking awareness program. We provide victim advocacy for domestic violence and sexual assault victims. We have a Mujeres group that provides education, empowerment, and celebratory events for different cultures. We have ESL classes. And every day, the staff at El Pueblo provides individual outreach to community members that needs to navigate our government, health education, and legal systems. Because individuals may need help with getting on the computer and navigating Head Start, or going to the court and needing an interpreter. So that's what we do every day. And I'm really proud of the staff that I have that does that work. So again, we are a community. And I want to tell you about 3 disasters. Gail's already talked about some of them. We opened our Biloxi office in response to Katrina. There was a lot of worker issues for the immigrant community. People, again, needing to navigate the system. So we opened our office there, 2006, 2007. And then we actually just had a celebratory event for those who rebuilt the coast and how they're seen now. And then in 2019, we opened our forest office in response to the largest raid. This was devastating. We witnessed communities torn apart, families torn apart, children needing mental health care. It was devastating, but we also witnessed resilience and family rebuilding. We formed community, and we have a strong community there. Those were both horrific disasters, right? Today we see another disaster. We stand side by side and advocate for the immigrant community who are facing this terrible disaster today. The seismic disaster of being identified as the enemy and having your rights stripped away. A community who lives in fear. The manufactured enemy. We're told that the immigrants are our enemy, basically. And we see the reaction to that in our laws. We see the reaction in rhetoric in schools, in the medical field, needing an interpreter and not getting what you need. We see the reaction and we see the families that are in need. There have been 100 families in the forest area that have been separated by recent ICE enforcement. We've provided food. We have a Feed the Neighbor kind of fundraising. Not that we could sustain that, but it was to let them know we're here, we're thinking about you. We can help you with some groceries. In February and March, due to the pullback of funds from this current administration, we lost a refugee program, our prison program where we educate asylum seekers. Our children's program has been lost and come back, and now it's back. And then we lost our statewide community health worker program, which was a very vital program. And we had to close our Columbus office. We had an office in Columbus. But we continue. Why do we continue? It is what we are called to do. We work and live in this new reality. Families are afraid to leave their homes. Children are kept from school. When school started, the superintendent called me and said, 300 kids are not here at school. What can we do? And we decided, she drafted a letter and she was like, can I tell them they're safe here? And unfortunately, my response was, no, you cannot tell them they're safe. But things are better now. Better than they were, where everybody just was living in fear. If they saw a police car, they would call our office and say, ICE is here, ICE is there. Now, the community which once trusted law enforcement a little bit in some of these communities, no longer trusts law enforcement. So that affects people who are victims of domestic violence, people who can now not have a voice. And providing groceries was just one thing. And that's not necessarily major, because the damage is so much more than a bag of groceries. The damage is trauma. The damage is, we're teaching know your rights. And while we're teaching know your rights, our country is changing as to what those rights are. We're telling families, don't let your child run to the door and open the door, because you don't have to open the door. So we're having to train children about this is the reality of how our family lives. We're having to tell children, know your mom's name at work and know your mom's name at home. It's a reality. And what I tell my staff is that we have to deal in reality. We have to be honest. We can't give false hope. And with families, we can work together, we can navigate things, but the reality is it's a scary place right now. We've been here twice before with disasters, and we'll get over this disaster eventually, I have faith. Our community is strong and resilient. So where do you stand in the community? Are you standing with brothers and sisters to resist and rebuild? Are we rebuilding a community, or are we tearing communities apart? And it's not pobrecita, like this poor family, oh, we're helping them. It's not that. These are hardworking families. And I hate to say hardworking, because I'm hardworking too. But these are friends, these are families, these are people who want the best for their children, just like you all do. They want their kids to go to school, have a better life. They want to live in a safe place. This is our community. We are all should be respected in the same way with the same rights. So my plea to you is to be a part of that community. Not in the shadows, be a part of the community. Understand your neighbors and where they're coming from. Push back to injustices. And that's hard. It's hard for us. It's hard for us to decide, should I post this? Should I not post this? We're not having a Hispanic festival this year. We've had to be our 4th year, a large festival. I can't put people in danger. So I know it's not easy to decide what to do, but I ask you to get to know your neighbors and be a part of that community as well. And I'm going to leave you with a quote by Dorothy Day. She's a journalist and activist. We have all known the long loneliness, and we have learned that the only solution is love, and love comes with community.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. The words that manufactured enemy is a very good one. And if you can imagine for a moment the devastation that happened with Katrina, that is happening across the whole country. Thank you for helping to support El Pueblo today. You can find more information about them by, I think it's in the order of service, searching for El Pueblo, Mississippi. And I know there's people here who've been supporting them for some time, so I thank you for that. The offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you all for the gifts to this community. Let us now enter into the ritual like the one before us to share what is on our hearts and lay it at the altar of community and spirit. We'll use a pebble to drop it into a bowl to symbolize the ripples of water that are like the ripples of the events in our lives. They extend beyond us. Again, that interconnectivity of where we are all together. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Our first pebble is one for gratitude for our visitors and friends. We offer a warm welcome to you. We're so happy that you're here today. Our second pebble is grief for people across the world who are suffering due to war, violence, disasters, and so much tyranny. And another pebble this morning for the people of Leland, Mississippi, and Heidelberg, Mississippi, and other places in the country that have been the victims of mass shootings. 4 people were killed in Leland with 16 people injured there. And from Mary Cahill, my son Michael Leon has a heart catheter scheduled for Wednesday at 9 a.m. in Orlando, this coming Wednesday, is that right? I'm concerned for a friendly agreement for the people of Palestine and Israel and for Sudan and Gaza. Also, you are the done deal, it seems, for an asphalt plant near Organic Farm and Rivers in Taylor. Okay, for all of those. Valerie Booth mentions that there's going to be a Halloween parade this year around the square on Wednesday, October 29th, 5:30 to 7. If you want to participate, Valerie can forward you the information. She has no affiliation with the organizer, and I don't know who's organizing. Are there any other griefs, gratitudes, growths to mention?
My brother had his first child this week.
Yay! Wonderful, wonderful. Good, good. So our last pebble then is for all the unspoken needs, hurts, hopes that exist in our community. Thank you. And please stay seated for this next hymn. This is our meditation hymn. May I be filled with loving kindness. We've done it recently, so we know it. It's number 1031, I believe. We will do.
I'll just do the last 2 bars as intro.
Okay. And do it a little bit slowly because it's very, very thoughtful.
Everybody ready?
Well, good morning. It is so wonderful to see you all this morning. We're going to start out, we're going to do two readings. This is a poem by W.H. Auden, and the way I want you to listen to this poem is we're not going to interrogate it for meaning. We're going to let it wash over us and just sort of take in what we take in and feel what we feel. Does that sound good to everybody? About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating, or opening a window, or just walking dully along. How when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course. Anyhow, in a corner, some untidy spot where dogs go on with their doggy life, and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had on the white leg disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. Our second reading comes to us from Letter from a Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. I must confess that over the past few years I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goals you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Sam Teitel. I am a Unitarian Universalist minister from Memphis. I am so honored and grateful for the opportunity to hang out with you all this morning. It's always a joy to be back at Oxford. I am so grateful for my beloved friend, the Reverend Gail Stratton, for co-leading worship with me this morning, and to my friend, the Reverend Sarah Osborne, for her generous invitation to me to preach, and to the I'm so awful, I've forgotten the first name of the person leading the tech this morning. Valerie. But Valerie has been heroic. And I have shown up with this bizarre thing that I'm trying to do with these visual aids, and Valerie has put up with me, and it's been so Valerie, thank you so much. So I want to start out by talking about the W.H. Auden poem that we read earlier. This poem is an example of a kind of poetry that we in the poetry business call ekphrasis. Everybody say ekphrasis. Ekphrasis. Does someone know what ekphrasis means? Okay, a couple people, great. Ekphrasis, simply put, is a work of poetry that is based on or in response to a work of visual art. So this poem by Auden is named after a museum. The name of the poem, Musée des Beaux-Arts, translates to Museum of Fine Art. And so Auden wrote this poem about a specific museum, the Old Masters Museum in Brussels, Belgium. And there are two paintings in particular that he discusses in the poem. Both of these paintings are attributed to a 16th century Dutch painter named Peter Bruegel the Elder. So we're going to take a look at both of these paintings. Could you switch to the other painting? Would that be possible?
Might need to get Valerie, but
Perfect. Got it. We did it. So we're going to look at these paintings and talk about these paintings a little bit and try to figure out what exactly Auden was getting at in this poem. So the first painting that I want to show you is called The Census at Bethlehem, painted by Bruegel in 1566. Can everybody see this at least a little bit? Everybody in the back? So this is a painting of a biblical scene. Here, sort of right in the middle, sort of down on the right, we have Jesus' parents, shortly before Jesus was born, going to register themselves for the census. This is a thing that happens in the Bible and the Gospel according to Luke, which is why Jesus' family was so far from home in Bethlehem when Jesus was born. They were registering for a census. So in the painting, we have that biblical scene, and you'll notice that this painting does not take place in biblical times or in the Middle East, right, where the Bible is generally set. Here we have a biblical scene that is set in the 16th century in the Netherlands, in the time and place in which Bruegel painted it, hence the snow and the European architecture and the European clothing and the Europeans, all of which are very non-biblical. But what Bruegel is really showing us here, and what Auden is really noticing, is the ways in which the world continues to move. We have Mary and Joseph, Jesus' parents, there in the center, and then we have life happening all around them. Right? Auden writes, while the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children. If you look there on the right there, we see the children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. And so we're going to come back to this painting in a minute. We have the first painting that Auden discusses, then we have our next painting, which, if we could switch to the next painting, you are a superhero. The one that he outright names in the poem, Landscape with the Fall of Icarus, which Bruegel painted in 1560. I want us to look at this painting together for a minute and ask yourself, what do you notice? What stands out? And most of all, does anything look amiss or out of place? Do you notice the two little legs sticking out of the water in the lower right? Can you kind of see that? So that's Icarus, having just fallen out of the sky. And I have a whole thing in here explaining the story of Icarus. We heard it told so beautifully by Afton earlier in the service. Thank you so much for telling that, but we're just going to do this as a recap. So this is an ancient Greek myth. In the story, Icarus and his father, Daedalus, are trapped in a maze. They've been imprisoned there by a king, and there's a monster stalking them through the maze. So they build wings to help them escape. And the wings are made out of dropped bird feathers, and the straps from their sandals, and importantly, beeswax. And so they make the wings, and they put on the wings, and they fly away. But Icarus famously does what? Flies too close to the sun. And the wax holding his wings together melts, and Icarus falls into the ocean and drowns, and it's super sad. So the feet in the painting are Icarus's feet. And it's worth noting that Icarus seems to have fallen through time as well as through the air, right? Because here as well, Bruegel has moved the painting's setting from its original faraway context into 16th century Europe. Auden reflects on what's happening in the painting, writing, as we read a minute ago, in Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. It sort of changes the poem when you see the painting, right? So this poem and these two paintings have a view of humanity that is very bleak. right? Auden. Do we have any W.H. Auden fans here? We're at least sort of familiar. So Auden, my beloved Auden, was many wonderful things. Optimistic is not one of those things. And Bruegel, for his part, wasn't particularly optimistic either, right? Both paintings shows examples of human suffering. They show Jesus' family having to subject themselves to terrible treatment at the hands of an oppressive, occupying government that will eventually result in them having to deliver a baby in a barn, famously. And they show Icarus, his wings freshly melted, drowning in the ocean, and they show people all around these two protagonists just kind of doing their thing, as though nothing terrible is happening right under their noses. So what do we do with this? What if I just left right there? What if I was just like, everything is terrible, no one cares? Thank you, Oxford. So what do we do with this? What do we take from this that doesn't just leave us with the message that horrible things happen and the world moves on and no one cares? Because, that's a terrible message. So I want to start looking for clues in the second text that we read this morning. This is an excerpt from a piece of writing. I would call this my favorite piece of American theological writing. This is Letter from a Birmingham Jail by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Have we read Letter from a Birmingham Jail before? We're familiar with this? Well, Martin Luther King wrote this text in 1963, just about exactly 400 years after Bruegel made these two paintings, and 25 years after Auden wrote his poem. He was, as the title implies, in jail in Birmingham, Alabama, for doing direct action in support of the civil rights movement. And he wrote this letter in response to another public letter that had been written by a group of white clergy who were, in their letter, basically telling Dr. King and his associates to wait, to hold back. They said they agreed with his goals, but not his methods of direct action, because those methods were too divisive. In other words, they wanted to prioritize white comfort over black liberation. And King wrote this letter that we read in response to them. So I want to spend the rest of my time with you all telling you what I notice in the text and trying to notice it in conversation with Auden and Bruegel. Because what I notice about Auden and Bruegel is that their portrayal of the human condition is almost nihilistic. Right? Nobody cares, they say, and nobody helps. And King is not exactly optimistic either, but what King does is he leaves open the possibility of people showing up for one another and helping each other in their struggle for freedom. And it's sort of interesting because the subject of Bruegel's paintings were also working for their own liberation. Right? Jesus' family were dark-skinned people living in a place that was being occupied by an invading oppressive force from Europe. And they were doing what they could to work within the parameters that had been given to them, but ultimately ended up delivering a baby in a dirty barn because nobody could accommodate them. Icarus and his father Daedalus had been imprisoned by a king. They had been perceived as a threat to a politician's power, so they had been sent to a terrible place where they were being chased by a monster. So they took the materials that they had to work with and they made something truly amazing happen. They literally flew away on wings they made themselves. And Icarus's wings melted when he got too high. Icarus's method of liberating himself, in other words, required there to be collaborators. His methods required somebody to help him, to not say, well, if I were you, I would have built the wings out of something else, or, well, you shouldn't have flown so high. I want to point out two things about this argument. First, the story of Icarus usually blames Icarus for choosing to fly too high and getting his wings melted. And to that, I will say, to look at a young person who has been trapped in a labyrinth since they were at a very young age and give them an actual set of working wings and then expect them to keep it low and slow is ridiculous. Like, that was never going to happen. It probably wouldn't have happened with anybody, no matter what age they were. And second, any movement for liberation requires experimentation. Some tactics will work well, and some won't work as well. And that does not delegitimize the movement or the people behind the movement. So Icarus's way of liberating himself required support. It required collaborators. It required the guy with the plow to jump in the water and pull him to shore. Or it required someone on the boat to throw him a life preserver. And yes, they did have life preservers in Bruegel's time. I looked it up. Actually fell down a pretty good internet rabbit hole on the history of life preservers. It was more interesting than I expected it to be. Jesus' family and the other Bruegel painting were also in need of collaborators. They were people far from home with a baby about to be born any minute. They required people to come help them and to not say, well, you shouldn't be out here with your pregnant wife, or your wife shouldn't be pregnant to begin with, or perhaps most frustratingly of all, this has nothing to do with me, so why bother? Right? This family needed people to lift them up and to give them support and a comfortable place to be. This is why Bruegel portrayed these stories as happening in his own time and place. Because these stories are relevant and applicable in any time, in any place. Be that in the ancient world, or in 16th century Europe, or in Birmingham in the 60s, or in Oxford, Mississippi in the year 2025. In every case, there are people struggling. There are people fighting for liberation, and there are people around them who have the opportunity to collaborate. And it's so easy to be critical. It's so easy to look at somebody who is struggling to be free and to tell them, just like those white religious leaders in Birmingham told Martin Luther King, that how you're doing it, this is how you're doing it wrong, this is how I would do it differently. It is another harder, but ultimately better thing to look at somebody who is working to liberate themselves and say, what do you need? In what ways can I support the work that you are doing? And then to be willing to do that work, to come alongside them and support their work, even if it makes us uncomfortable. Even if we don't like how they're doing it, it takes humility and compassion to trust that people who are fighting to free themselves from systems of oppression are themselves the experts on what they need. And the best thing that their allies can do is to listen to them and assist them and set aside our need to critique in favor of our ability to support. So I will leave you with this, which is that people are fighting for liberation all around us right now. Our wonderful guest speaker this morning drove that point home, I think, better than I possibly could. So thank you, Michael, for that. Now, as much as any other time in history, there are people who are being oppressed and subjected to terrible treatment because of the identities that they hold, because they are viewed as a threat by people who are jealously guarding their power, because they are demanding what Dr. King calls the positive peace, which is the presence of justice, over the negative peace, which is the absence of tension. I mean, I'm from Memphis. The National Guard has been patrolling Memphis really in earnest for a few days now. At night, I hear Black Hawk helicopters circling my neighborhood. And I will tell you, as someone who is there and who is watching this happen, whatever you see on TV, whatever you see politicians saying, this is not a situation of assistance. This is oppression and state-sponsored violence against innocent people. In this time, all of us are called to come out of our status as the mere bystanders that Bruegel portrays and that Auden laments, and be the allies and collaborators that Dr. King asks us to be. This is our work. This is our call and our obligation as faithful people. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Sam. We will now release our chalice flame as our time this morning comes to a close. But we know we carry the light within, the light that burns in our hearts and lights our way. May we carry it with us always. And And as we figure out how to move forward in the ways that Reverend Sam has talked about, we'll close with a hymn, number 169, Guide My Feet.
348.
348. How did I get that wrong? 348. Just a random number in my head. So please rise in body or spirit, and we'll, at the end of this, we'll stay standing and do our congregational blessing. So Guide My Feet, 348.
It's been a while since we've done this, so I'll play it through once and then about 4 verses.
So please remain where you're standing, and we'll have our closing congregational blessing. You can hold hands if you prefer, if you'd like to. Our words are go in peace, believe in peace, create in peace, and be peace. We'll say them together. Go in peace, believe in peace, create in peace, and be peace. Blessed be. Very good.
Enjoy.
Very good.
Do you know what's going on here?
I don't know who's leading. It's not me.
I'll just look out for you. Let Sarah know. So last week that I went, what I'm going to do is, Sarah and I discussed this. I'm going to record all the people. I already have it. I'll send them to her. I'm going to have like a little text document describing what to do when to play them. You know, these are going to be really nice, high quality recordings, all metronome. We'll do it in a way where it's still not going to be as good as the video, but it'll still be music.
So that'll be the last Sunday when Sarah is here. So you're communicating with her. That's fine.
So probably this is the first time we'll do it. I'll just send her the files, but eventually Andy talk about this. He's going to get a Google Drive set up so that I can just basically every time I practice these every week, I can just upload them and we just have a whole resource of whatever we need.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to pay attention to my email and see who's there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Wonderful as always. Very brave to show off with technology. That's very brave.